Instead of rallying in the battleground states he's trying to win in November, Donald Trump made a detour to Aurora today. The former president held a rally and doubled down on false claims of a citywide takeover by a Venezuelan gang.
We want to get to 9 News anchor Kyle Clark, who was there today to talk a little bit more about the rally and what you heard from those in attendance.
Kim, what we heard from folks in attendance is that they were just thrilled to have Donald Trump here in Colorado in a year in which he is not expected to be competitive in this state. But he's trying to make Aurora one of the centerpieces of his campaign with this false claim that a Venezuelan gang has taken over the city, or as he suggested today, even taken over the state of Colorado. There are a lot of racial undertones to what Trump says about immigrants, poisoning the blood of our country, recently talking about, bad genes in immigrants who kill. And some of those undertones became overtones today because the final speaker to kind of ramp up the crowd before he came out was Stephen Miller. And not many folks may know who Stephen Miller is unless you're really into politics and policy, but he's a senior advisor to the president for years on immigration issues. NPR News described him as the link between white nationalists and the Trump team. And Miller told the crowd to envision building an America without immigrants, basically a place where only people who are naturalized Americans would live.
You have a right to love your neighbors as they are. You have a right to want a country that is of, by, and for Americans and only Americans.
I always say we have the outside enemy, so you can say China, you can say Russia, you can say Kim Jong-un. It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country. That's a bigger enemy than China.
So who is the scum that Donald Trump describes as the enemy? It's a lot of the familiar lines from his rallies that played back here in Aurora today, right? The scum, is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The scum are the journalists who were there. I encourage folks to turn around and boo at those of us journalists here. Some of the loudest boos of the day for transgender children. Just loud, thunderous boos for transgender children. So this was clearly, this is Trump's bread and butter, right? It is us versus them. It is the enemy within. Here are the people that are taking down America, and the crowd loved it. I mean, they were absolutely rapturous to his message and hanging on. I wouldn't say hanging on every single word because he spoke for an hour and 15 minutes. As a number of attendees told me walking out, that could have been a lot longer. There were some folks trickling out even from the best seats before it was over, as Trump kind of weaved around from subject to subject, sometimes covering things he had already covered. Other folks told me, that's just the weave, right? That's the charm. That's the way that he presents information. But it was a very dire picture of a community where even just Republican Mayor Mike Kaufman said a short time ago, it's just not a true depiction of Aurora. But honestly, I think a lot of the people here today knew that because they live here.
Mm-hmm. A lot of strong words for our governor as well. He said that he had some strong words for Governor Polis.
Yep, I know he called him a coward. I think he also called him scum. And he falsely blamed Governor Polis for trying to take him off the Colorado ballot. That was actually a group of Never Trump Republicans and unaffiliated voters who sued to get him off the ballot. That wasn't Governor Polis. But he went through the whole routine. He does this at events where he says, these people will kiss up to me in private. Said that Polis kissed up to him in private, but then says bad things about him publicly. But yeah, there was a definite fixation on Jared Polis, which is interesting, right? Because Jared Polis is not necessarily a figure on the national scene when it comes to Democrats and is not usually taking the brunt of Donald Trump's ire. But since he was here, Polis is the home state Democratic governor, so he certainly got his today.
Yes, he did. Okay. All right. Thank you, Kyle. As Kyle was talking about 10,000 people attended Donald Trump's rally. There were a few counter-protesters here and there, and words were exchanged with Trump supporters outside the Gaylord Rockies resort. Both groups were there to send their own message.
I think they're here to support the guy. I think all these people feel the same way, Yeah. We're here to support the man,
Go Trump, yeah.
Go Trump all day,
Trump has ridiculed Aurora, and we're ashamed of what he said about Aurora and the Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes, which is a complete, utter creation of his own little feeble mind.
You can find continued coverage of Trump's visit to Aurora on 9 News Plus and 9news.com.
Here's a live look now at downtown Denver. Hope you enjoyed today's cool down. It's been nice, kind of feeling like fall, but highs will be back in the 80s tomorrow. Here now with more on that is Weather Impact Team Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen. Hey, Corey.
Hey, yeah, you know, we had just a little mini cold front slide through this morning, and that kept our temperatures almost seasonal. High of 73 in Denver today is about 6 degrees warmer than the normal for this day in October. It didn't do much for the wildfire smoke, which is evident all around us as we went through the day here for most of Colorado, as those fires continue to burn in Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming. Current temperatures just starting to drop down now, still in the low 70s. Here's your evening here in Denver, looking pretty nice here, into the 60s for almost all the way until midnight. Here's a few things we're tracking in the weather impact headlines. Hot day tomorrow, into the 80s, super unusual for this time of year. A cooler-ish type of Sunday here with one more little cold front, and we're tracking a week ahead, which is going to feature mostly sunshine and dry conditions.
We are staying on top of other breaking news that we brought you at 4 o'clock first. The Aurora police officer who killed Kylan Lewis will not face charges.
9 News investigates. Kevin Vaughn joins us now. And Kevin, the Arapahoe County DA declined to bring criminal charges against the officer in this case.
Alex and Kim, that's true. That's the big news. The news right behind that is that before making that decision, the Arapahoe County District Attorney took the case to a grand jury. Lewis was unarmed with a cell phone in his hand when an Aurora SWAT officer shot him. Aurora and Denver officers had confronted Lewis because he was wanted on a warrant for attempted murder. In the ruling made public this afternoon, the Arapahoe DA said the officer had a reasonable belief the object in Lewis's hand was a gun. The DA also took the case to a grand jury, as we noted, which declined to investigate further. We should note that under Colorado law, officers can use deadly force if they have a reasonable belief they or someone else is in imminent danger. Live in the newsroom, Kevin Vaughn, 9 News.
A case that we've been following closely, but also Kylan Lewis's family has been very vocal and will continue to put in the news.
That's right, and we're going to be working over the next couple of days to talk to them about this decision that came out, like I said, late this afternoon.
All right, thank you, Kevin.